Hi friends, it's Marie at LivingFelt. In this video, we're going to show you how to make your own pre-felt. Lately, we have been sharing projects that include commercial pre-felt as a base, but sometimes you might want a more dynamic foundation for your next wet felt project. This is the tutorial to watch. We are going to be making our very own wet felted pre-felts. The 19 micron pre-felt comes in a range of dyed colors and they're all solids, but it can be really fun to make your own pre-felts for inclusions. And pre-felts, though, beyond what we're doing today, can have a variety of uses. And in this case, we're going to be designing for surface design. Now, let me just show you these couple of little things. And these are just a few simple little examples here. So this is a nanofelt pre-felt. So I've used the fine merino top. It's just a couple of layers of merino top with a silk fabric inclusion, and we'll do one of those today. And this is the little note card that I have. So the note card basically outlines what type of fiber or fabrics did I use, how many layers of fiber did I use, how many rolls did I do, and we'll talk about why that's important. What are the overall dimensions? What is the weight? What was the layout style I used? And then this one is one color merino top on the bottom. Yes, I wanted it to be darker. And then I chose lighter on top so that if there's migration, this dark underneath might come up through once we felt it down all the way. We call that a halo. And I left this area here as an example really sparse because I wanted it to not be very solid. As we felt this down, these will migrate more, but like here I wanted to see the striations and here I wanted to see them too. So this was intentional, whereas this one is done just a little more solid. So this is what we're going to be making today, are pre-felts that you can store away for another day. So the reason for the note cards are so that if you like its performance in your project, then you know that your approach was the right one. For me, the way I use it in surface design is a little more abstract, and I'm not a very geometric person. But if you are, then these notes are going to be really important for you to keep in mind. How far did you go, and do you want to go further? And the size would allow you to store this away in a bag or some kind of clear envelope and know what you have to work with as you click through your pre-felt samples. So you might store these away for another day. To get a copy of the PDF with the note cards, follow the link in the description down below. By definition of a pre-felt, it's only partially felted. They still have feltability in my world, that's my word, feltability, and that means we can include them in the surface design of another project, and that's what we'll be doing later. I'll be cutting these into pieces and using them in another project. I'm going to set up my table here so that we can make pre-felts together. So here's what I did: my plastic and then my bubble wrap and then my plastic, and then we're gonna lay out our project right on here. Sometimes when you're laying stuff out, you don't know how big you wanna lay things out. I will take either a note card, a pre-cut resist, or even a piece of felt that's colored, and I'll put it underneath so that I have a guide of where I wanna lay fibers out. It's just an idea if you're going to be laying bare fiber down. If you want to control the size, rather than measure or draw, you can give yourself a little template to lay out on. I'm working with 19 micron merino top as my primary fiber. I like to split the width so that it gets nice and narrow. I'm just going to tear a piece off to start. I like to split the width so it gets nice and narrow and is easy to handle. And what we want to do are 2 layers of merino, and those can be anything you want. There are no rules with that, but I'm going to split the width and then we're gonna lay out a little square. So this is going to be the size of what I'll lay out here on this one. Make your fiber nice and straight, and I'm just going to do a crisscross layout, and I'm gonna mix it up within this too, but we want to have your wool flat and straight, and this is how I pull it off, just like that. So I have a nice little wispy edge. And you want your pieces to be thin enough so that you can still kind of see the color underneath. And notice that I'm overlaying about a third, and then I'm going to come down this way. I will put in a different color over here. I want to encourage you to make nice, thin layers of fiber. Practice pulling off your wool so that it is even and lightweight. And so when I get right to the end, I like to flip it backwards. So I have one layer going up and down. I want the next layer to go across. So now we do have 100% coverage there, and I'm going to lay out another area over here. So here I have one layer going up and down, and we want the next one to go across. All we're making, y'all, is something that we can cut, for me, cut into a shape and felt into another project. I have put together only merino top, but you can include other things in your pre-felt too. You can include something like, I'll bring in some bamboo fiber. I'm going to put, just for fun so you can see the difference, I'm going to put some of this bamboo on top of the light and then some on top of the blue. In fact, I'm just going to cover this transition right here. And I'm just winging it, y'all. When it comes to design, very often I pick a theme, I pick a color and texture palette, and that's about as far as I go. I usually just pick a color theme and then build a color and texture palette. And I'm mixing these fibers up because I just want them to give me a nice sheen and no really particular grain. But you can also use fabrics in your pre-felt. So you might think, why not just put this triangle of fabric into your felted piece? And you can do that, but you could also put a square down and then cut out a perfect triangle of just the spot you want. This is going to help control your shape just a little bit better by putting it into making a pre-felt with it before you actually felt it. And that's just something to think about. You might do that. And I'm going to put down a little bit of this merino silk blend. It's variegated. And since I already have all these layers going down here, I can just take advantage of these beautiful striations just as they are in this fiber. And I think I'm just going to put them right here in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and just blend it all the way up here so it feels like I have not just this weird little open area, but a big, so I have a big design theme here I can take from. I have something here, and all of these. Oh, here's some tussa silk. So I have bamboo, merino silk blend, silk fabric, merino top, and let's just go ahead and put in some tussa silk. But I'm just going to put some of this in for sheen, and I will put it right here. I'm going to drop in, this is some of the commercial pre-felt, just into my felting space. You might make pre-felts in tandem while you're felting something else and just kind of cue those up, or you might just spend a day making some pre-felts and playing with that. When you want your lines to be really fine and sharp, you might want to felt your pre-felts a little more. These are the commercial pre-felts, and these will kind of fuzz out a little bit along the edges as they are now. So what you can do is felt them a little bit more and then cut them and put them into your pre-felts and see how you like them. Okay, I'm just gonna drop it. I'm gonna drop it right here and let it migrate with my others. I'll just go ahead and do them both. Okay, so once you have your fiber laid out, I'm not going to put any top dressing on those guys, but you could use that in your sample if you want as well. We want to wet this all out, and this is where I bring in my mesh. So I like to wet through the mesh because then I can really feel how much soap and water I'm putting on my project. So we are pressing water and soap in and air out. And that's why I like to use the sponge. Really, it helps me not put too much water in, and it really helps me control where the water goes. After you wet out your project, you're wetting it from the inside to all the way to the edges. You want to gently press. Notice I'm not rubbing. You just want to gently press so that everything is well wetted. And it also allows you, what happens is you push some of the water back to the perimeter. So really what you want is a uniform wetness, and you don't want it sitting in puddles of water. If water is starting to stream to your perimeter, then by all means, go ahead and pick that up, because as soon as you start to roll, it's going to squish out anyway. You can lightly rub with your hands, but for a project like this, what I don't want you to do is be overly aggressive. Often I will rub lightly with my hands across the entire project like this, just to form a surface skin. So you're only sort of commingling those very top fibers on the surface, and you're not trying to go below the surface. So notice that I'm not swishing all over the place. I'm not jumping from here to here. It's really methodical, and then you can go this direction. So we're only entangling those surface fibers. Now, once that is fully wet and soaked, then we're going to remove our mesh. Just peel back at a very shallow angle and make sure nothing is sticking. All right, so now we have this down, and you don't want to rub on top of the plastic without getting it wet and a little soapy. That's going to allow your hands to glide across. But make sure that you're not scooting these fibers around underneath. This is just all about, honestly, slowing it down, taking really tiny little baby steps, but also just going through this effort, this little stage. You're going to have something to work with that you cannot buy off the shelf. So whether you're bringing in your own fabrics or not, you just can't get this stuff anywhere else. This is my rolling towel, and I like a towel to go across and hold my whole project. So I'm going to get that under here and roll this up so that it's round, but don't squeeze it. Don't bind it too hard. Here we go. We're rolling up our package. I'm going to roll basically in rounds of 20. And you want to, after each 20, just give your project a quarter turn so that a different spot is laying on the table at each point. And I move my hands to kind of cover the whole width. This isn't very big, but start my hands in the middle and then move them to the outside by the time I get to the end of a count. Keep in mind, we're just making a pre-felt. I'm not pressing all that hard. My goal really is just enough for this stuff to hold together. You could pick a pre-felt apart if you wanted to. So notice what I'm doing here. I'm just giving the whole project a quarter turn each time I unroll. For felting this project, we are rolling only from side A, and I'm rolling 150 times from each edge. We will not be rolling from side B. Give you a little look here at what things look like right now, and this is kind of the view where we first started, so you can tell that I've gone all the way around. Now, if your silk fabric is on top, and it may not always be in your layout, sometimes it might be underneath, but if you're having a difficult time with things, the fiber migrating through, and I would say after you've rolled more than we've already rolled, what you can do is just rub from this side and think of kind of coaxing those fibers up from the bottom by rubbing on the silk side. So here you're kind of encouraging the fibers to come up through the other side, but also just be patient, like see how everything is kind of starting to come together, but we don't want to stop now. We want to keep rolling. So I'm just rolling from the top actually, so I'm not even going to flip it over for these. So start with 100 rolls from each edge, and then go ahead and take it up maybe another 50 or 60 rolls from each edge so that you see how you like your pre-felt there. So let's see how we've done here. I'm back to where I was. Okay, now you can see these guys are starting to migrate. And if I wanted to, I could probably peel these two parts apart, but look that I'm rubbing my hand and it's not just coming away. I could felt it more. Over here, I've got these striated designs, going up and down, and they're not just yielding under my touch. So I can see that I could kind of pick this up and it's somewhat of a fabric. We're almost done with 150 rolls from each side. You might be tempted to stop at 100. You certainly can. You can roll this just 200 times and let it dry and see how it is the next day. I just really want it to hold together. And I don't want the edges to smoosh out too much when I cut them and felt them into something else. And again, this is just for our surface design and controlling the shapes of those colors that we brought together. This is our piece, and now I just laid these big pieces down and this thins out. So remember, I'm not really trying to create a big piece of fabric per se, meaning like this is not all to be used in unison. I could cut this out as a piece. I could cut this out as a piece because I think it's interesting. A block here, a block there, a line, wherever these things come together. But this is all I'm trying to do, is to get something that is basically, it's delicate, but look, it's holding together and not falling apart under my touch. And that's kind of what I'm wanting. The designs, this is starting to pucker just a tiny bit, but there's still enough in here, meaning there's enough play in the fibers that if I really wanted to pull it apart, I could. So our next stage with this, if you are going to use it right away, like let's say within the next 3 to 4 or 1 to 4 days or 5 days, you could leave the soap in it. You could just lay this flat and let it dry and leave the soap in it just like it is. If you're not sure when you're going to be using it, or it seems a little bit longer, go ahead and rinse the soap out and just be gentle with it. If it's very fragile, your pre-felt is very fragile, well then sandwich it in your mesh. So give yourself a big mesh sandwich and rinse it in your mesh. So if you feel like it's going to fall apart on you and you want it that lightly pre-felted, then by all means, sandwich it in your mesh and just run the water through your mesh. Rinse the soap out, lay it to dry. Make your notes right when you make your piece so that when you come back to it, you remember, even include, I should have included on the note card, but in the other notes, just put whether it was rinsed or whether the soap is still in so that you kind of know when you want to use it by. Making pre-felts and learning to make pre-felts so that they get incorporated into whatever your project is the way you want is really going to come down to learning your fiber, learning your own techniques, understanding what approach you're taking, and then also evaluating the results of that. I just want to encourage you to give this a go and make your own little pre-felt or many so that when you see what you can do with them, that you kind of have yourself loaded and ready to go with lots of stuff to play with. And I'm going to be cutting my pre-felts into kind of smaller patchwork pieces. And that's why I want to make several so that I really have something to pull from when I get to that point. We hope you had fun with this project and we can't wait to see what you make with it. If you would like more wet felting projects, check out this video right here or check out the description link down below.